It's rivalry week, and Texas A&M's players understand what this game means to this state.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about what Texas A&M is going to do to stop the passing attack of Texas. Will they be able to? We're going to talk about how Texas A&M is going to attack this Texas defense, knowing they're pretty solid against both the run and the pass. But we're going to start the show talking about the press conference yesterday and one of the most interesting takeaways to me. And the most interesting takeaway to me from Coach Elko and his players was how well they understand what this game means to his fan base in this state. You know, looking at these players, and it's something I've talked about. I mean, these players that are 19, 20, 21, I'm 24. This rivalry, I was 10-ish when this stopped. Like, you understand it, but you don't really understand it. These players, were 7, 8, whatever years old. They're young. So these players partially get it, but they don't fully get it. So I think it's the job of, in all honesty, the state and the coaching staff to say, listen, this is what this game means. You've got some former players on staff. There's a lot of ways to do that. So this is the quote from Coach Elko on this game. They do understand when you grow up in the state and go through the ringers of recruiting and all that stuff, you understand what these two schools are about and what they mean to each other. And the first thing I want to say, Texas fans, welcome on in. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of you this week. And I mean, my one thing I'll say to y'all, as I also say to Texas A&M fans at the same time, is this is great for both of these programs. This is great for this state. This is great for everybody involved in this game. This is really exciting. And I'm fired up, and I know everyone tuning in this podcast feels the same exact way. So rivalry aside, this is going to be a lot of fun to have this football game back for the future. Tyrion York went on to say some things about the rivalry. And he said, there's no doubt in my mind that the guys who are from the state of Texas understand this rivalry. It means a lot to this state. And I think that's what you can feel. Once again, for the guys like York, who let's say he's 19, right? Maybe 20, probably 19. If you're from this state, you get it. If you're from the state, you understand what this rivalry means. You can feel it. It's the same thing people say about all the other big-time rivalries in college sports. The Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, Louisville, Michigan, Ohio State. Some of the, obviously, I think more some of the in-state rivalries, North Carolina, Duke. You can kind of feel those more. And I'll tell you this, Tyrion York said something else. This is interesting, too. I like this quote a lot. I wanted the A&M offer. Texas stayed 50 minutes away from me. They came on a helicopter to see my best friend. They weren't paying much attention. I didn't invest too much into those guys anyways. I like it. I like that, having a chip on your shoulder. Because seriously, I mean, there's a lot of players on this team that were probably recruited by both schools, by both coaching staffs. I mean, that's just the reality. When you're in this state and you're an elite recruit, you're probably being heavily pursued by both of these teams. So I find that very interesting, because that's just part of it. It's just part of it. That these players were pursued by both of these schools. This is what Tyrion York had to say about Quinn Ewers. He's good. The O-line does a good job of protecting him. That's an interesting quote. I would have expected there's two ways you can approach this. And so far throughout rivalry week, from the different rivalries, we've seen two different ways to approach it. We've seen the humble and kind of talk really good about your opponent. And then we've seen the trash talk, method of it. And, I think that the approach, that approach is the best way to approach it. I've always said, take the humble approach. I'm not upset at the crap talking approach, but I think Terry York took the middle ground there. Hey, I'm not going to sit here and say amazing, great things about Quinn Ewers. I'm going to say he's good. I'm going to say the line protects him. Simple as that. Not disrespectful, but you're not overdoing it. You're not over explaining things. So I liked that a lot. He then went on to talk about the expectations for what Kyle Fields' atmosphere is going to look like on Saturday. He said probably the Alabama, LSU, and Notre Dame games on steroids, which, yeah, Terry and I agree with you. I think that's a great example of what this is going to look like. Terry York had this to say about when he found out that there's still a chance the Aggies can make the SEC championship game. Let's just say this. I wasn't a happy camper after we lost, but when I found out we had a chance to go to the SEC championship, we have some hope, the opportunity to still go play in Atlanta. That's God's gift, and we have to take advantage of it. So we talked about yesterday. There's still a lot left on the line for the Aggies right now, which is very exciting. You can't always – it could have not happened. You know what I mean? I mean, you could have been done for here. Coach Uncle had this to say about Texas A&M's passing offense. Saturday was our best night. The timing of it was better. We got to our spots better. We got open better. We did some really positive things moving forward. Marcel, I think, continues to get more and more comfortable going through things. It's growth week after week, and we've got a big one this week. And that's true. I think Marcel Reed, and that's something I've said all since Marcel Reed's taken over as the guy is. I think that the passing attack, I think that Marcel Reed is going to get more dialed in. He's a young quarterback. The accuracy, we knew it was going to come. I thought it was going to take a little bit of time, and it is taking a little bit of time, but it gets better and better every single week, like Coach Elko said. This is interesting. Coach Elko had this about the sack number for the Aggies. When you look at the overall sack number, probably the most disappointing thing is the amount that we've missed. Elko says that we've missed at least 15 sacks to start the season, and I mean, if you look at it, I agree. I mean, they've been there a lot and not gotten it done. Coach Elko had this to say with the Texas offense. They're extremely talented. It will be the best one we've seen all year. They present a lot of different challenges. They can attack you on every phase of it with many different players. And that's true. We're going to talk more about their offense in segment 3 and how Texas A&M might be attacked and how they can respond to that. So here's his expectations for Kyle Field on Saturday night. The best it has ever been. Listen, you get a primetime TV game against your rival in a game that's for the SEC championship. I would imagine that will break the rafters a little bit. Coach Elko, I am with you on that. Then looking at the what Marcel Reed had to say, his expectations for the hemisphere. He's expecting it to be what it's been all season. 12th man always shows up and shows out, no question. Here's what he had to say about the possibility of playing in the SEC championship game. It gives me and the team a lot of juice. We know it's going to be history if we make it. We're here now. We have a chance to go make this opportunity what we want it to be. Marcel Reed also said, I will never go into a game thinking about how good a team is at forcing turnovers. I just go into the game focusing on what I've got to do and my responsibilities. Yeah, you can't look at it and go, okay, Texas A&M's, they're able to turn us over. You can't, or Texas, excuse me, you can't look at it that way. It's a negative mentality to have. Marcel Reed on the rivalry itself said, I understand the rivalry. A lot of people know that football in Texas is just different. This game coming back is really big for our university, their university in the state of Texas. No question. And I'm serious about that. I think it's great to know that this means as much to these players as it means to these fan bases. All you listeners here, Locked On Aggies, listeners over at Locked On Longhorns. I mean, we're seriously like it means a lot to everybody, and this is exciting. Coach Elko went on this, talked about Ruben Owens. He said he's running and moving. We'll see where it goes. I like that quote. I like running and moving. Running and moving is a positive thing when it comes to the hopes of maybe getting him back on the field at some point soon. So I am fired up about that. We're going to talk a little bit about how good Texas's defense is in every phase of the game and how the Aggies can attack this or how they should attack it. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, know about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to get all of your tickets to anything. Game Time is what I use when I'm buying tickets. Like I said, my mom and I are going to a concert here in a few months. And where are we going to get tickets to said concert? None other than Game Time. It's the best, or we already got them at Game Time. Best prices. I like how you can see where you're sitting. You can see the venue from where you're, the app for you know where you're going to sit. It's the best place to buy tickets. I absolutely love using this app. It's easy to use, best prices, easiest app to use on the market. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account or name code LOCKEDONCOLEG for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So, currently, Texas's defense is second best in the country against the pass and 13th best against the run. Looking at this, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the Aggies are going to attack this defense. I think you're going to see it be closer to balance than it has been over the last few games. I mean, I think this Auburn game is a great example. Obviously, that turned into a bit more of a shootout than I think really anybody would have expected. But against Auburn, I believe, ran it like 50 times. Let's see. Against Auburn, you ran the ball 52 times and threw it 35. I feel like that's got to be one of the closest to balance games we've seen. Let's check against South Carolina. Against South Carolina, you threw it 26 or 28 times and ran it 42. Around the same ratio there. Just less plays, which makes sense because, you didn't have overtime. Then looking at like the Missouri game, let's see, because I think was that closer to balance? Wigman threw it 22 times. You ran it 36 times. So, I mean, I think it was just more significant volume, but it was still pretty close to what it's been. I mean, Texas A&M is going to have to get something going through the air to win this game. I think it's pretty simple. I think that's pretty black and white. I think we can all agree on that. You have to find a way to achieve balance in this game. I mean, looking at this defense, once again, they're second against pass, 13th against run. There's no good way to attack them, but you're going to have to figure something out. And it's going to be balanced. I don't think this is going to be a game where you can just sit down and run the ball 55 times, especially knowing, I mean, you really couldn't get much going yards per carry wise on the ground against Auburn. I believe it was 3.3. We talked about that yesterday. I believe it was 3.3 yards per carry. And I mean, even Amari Daniels, 27 carries for 90 yards. Like, that's not going to get the job done. Yeah, 3.2 yards per carry. That's not going to get the job done at all. It's just not. I mean, 3.2 yards per carry, 27 for 90 from your starting running back. That's just not going to get the job done. So you've got to find a way to get more explosive plays. I mean, your long run of the game was for 15 yards, and that was Marcel Reed. Your long run from your non-quarterback was 9 for Amari Daniels. I mean, you've got to get more explosive plays. I just don't think that the way to beat Texas is going to be, 4 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. I mean, you want to muck up the game. You want to ugly this game up, knowing how good their offense is. There's no question there. But at the same time, you're going to want some explosive plays. You would love long, sustained touchdown drives. But at the end of the day, Texas A&M has been really susceptible to penalties. There's been a lot. Penalties kill drives. The longer you go on a drive, the better the chance that you end up getting a holding and killing a drive. Explosive plays will help you win this game. You've got to find a way to make some explosive plays happen. And I think the Aggies are going to be able to do that. I really do. I think Texas A&M is going to be able to find a way to get some explosive plays in this matchup. If they find a way to get some explosive plays, I think it's going to really help out when it comes to finding a way to win the game. I mean, if you don't get explosive plays, I don't think the Aggies win this game. So I just have a feeling you're going to have to use the passing attack more. I mean, I think the 35 attempts you saw against Auburn, I think you're going to see Reed be close. And this is just a suspicion of mine. If I asked y'all right now, how many times is Reed going to throw the football in this game? My guess is a lot of people would say like 25, maybe 28. I think he's closer to 35 in this game like he was against Auburn. I think that they're starting to get more confidence. Like we said, I saw receivers running open against Auburn more than I have a lot this year for Texas A&M. Hopefully that can become a trend. That would be really great if that could become a trend. Because I mean, Noah Thomas, I mean, he had a few great plays where he was really, really open. So yeah, you're going to want to continue to see that from this passing attack. But at the end of the day, maybe Texas A&M is going to run it 35 times or pass it 35 times. But at the end of the day, you're still going to run it a lot. And they have got to find a way to make something happen in the run game. I mean, 27 carries for 90 yards is just not going to get the job done. It's just not. I mean, you have to find a way to be more efficient with your carries, have more explosive plays with your carries. And Auburn's a good run defense. Texas is a better run defense. It's not like it gets easier this week. I think having Ruben Owens would be massive. But once again, I think even if Ruben Owens does play, let's say he does play in this game, I don't see you getting more than 10, 8, 5 carries out of him in his first game back. It's not like he's going to come back and they're going to be like, okay, perfect, here we go, 25 carries, boom. I don't see that happening. I could see him getting that many carries in the bowl game or maybe even the SEC championship game. But if he does find a way to get out there and play on Saturday, I don't see him getting more than, I'd say the most I could possibly see would be 10 carries. That is the most possible. So, I think that is a way to approach this and kind of see how it's gonna work out for this offense. But you got to get something going in the run game, or you will not beat the Longhorns. And I mean, once again, you look and you go, man, Texas A&M ran for 167 yards on 52 carries. 167 yards is not going to get the job done. It's just not. So, yeah, like I said, you've got to find a way to be more efficient with your carries. And if you're not, I don't think the Aggies win this game. That's just the reality. I think if you don't run for between 4.5 and 4.5, I mean, I think 4.5 is the minimum I'd go yards per carry. I just don't think you win this game. So you've got to be better there. Got to be better there. It's going to make or break this season or this game, excuse me. So that's something I'm paying attention to. I think that I know that Texas is dominant against the pass, but I think that's the way you've got to try and find some explosive plays because I think maybe you can do better in the run game than you did last week, but I don't think that you're going to find a ton of success in the run game. I don't think you're going to find a ton of explosive plays. The explosive plays are going to have to come in the passing attack. That needs to come from great throws from Marcel Reed, Noah Thomas, your receivers getting open, and Colin Klein calling the right plays at the right time. So there's a lot that will go into this, but I think Texas A&M is going to have to find a way to get the ball moving in the air for them to beat the Longhorns on Saturday because this is not going to be an easy game. I've talked about it. I really think Texas is a dominant team. I think they're a great, great football team, and it's not going to be easy to win this game. So I really am excited to see how this offense attacks the defense of Texas, but it's going to be difficult. There's no question there because this is one of the best defenses in all of college football, and that's statistically and by passing the eye test. The Longhorns are 17th in passing offense in college football. Can Texas A&M secondary that just got torched by Peyton Thorne stop this attack? We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, going to talk about our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. For me, FanDuel last night for the NFL game, I had my dad and I went and got a beer last night, and I, for the first time ever, didn't make parlays. I did 3 lines. I did 3 straight bet lines. Derrick Henry, 100-plus rushing yards, hit. Will Dissly, over 40.5 receiving yards, hit. Mark Andrews, over 31.5 receiving yards, hit. 3 for 3. Profitable. I think straight bets are great. I might start having to do that more often than parlaying stuff. We'll have to see. If you want to join in on this action, join FanDuel.com today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. Looking at this Texas offense, obviously their passing offense is what has been kind of the better of the two this year. But I'll tell you this, Texas against Kentucky on Saturday, I was in Austin for that game, actually. Texas against Kentucky, they were pushing a solid Kentucky defensive line across the field. They were literally running the same run play every single time. I mean, it was just, they were running the zone. Not every single time, but they were running a similar play often and just getting 6, 7, 8 yards per carry. I want to see what the actual number Texas ran for in this game was, because it had to be solid. In this game, Texas rushed for 251 yards on 46 carries for 5.5 yards per carry. Quinn Ewers went 20-31, only had a $191 passing and 2 touchdowns. And obviously he was a little banged up with the ankle or whatever the injury was. But they were pretty easily running the football against a solid Kentucky front. So it's going to be interesting to see how Texas decides to attack Texas A&M. But if I'm Texas and Quinn Ewers is good to go and he's feeling all right and he's healthy or he's at least, over 90% healthy, I'm airing that thing out against this Texas A&M secondary that really just struggled against, once again, checks notes, Peyton Thorne. This secondary really struggled against Auburn. And it was a lot of, what was more frustrating than anything about it is it was a lot of just guys just wide open running down the field, where you're like, how did that guy get that open? How is that even possible? I think that's the way that they're going to try and really exploit this Texas A&M defense. I think they're going to run it too. I think they're going to try and be balanced as well, because I think that they can find success in both ways in this game. So, it's going to be interesting to see, can Texas A&M stop this passing attack? Because if they can't, it's even going to open things up in the running game. If they can't stop Quinn Ewers in this passing offense, it's going to be really hard, really, really, really hard to find a way to win this game. I just don't see you winning this game if they're passing all over your secondary. So Texas A&M has got to find a way to slow the passing attack, because if you don't, once again, the passing attack is going to open up the rushing attack as well and just make it even harder to stop this team than it already was. So it's going to be really interesting to see if this Texas A&M defense is able to stop the passing attack, knowing they once again just struggled against Peyton Thorne and the Auburn Tigers, who they have great position players. They have great skill position players, but the quarterback is definitely an issue there, but he burned you. So you got to find a way to not let that happen against a much, much, much better Texas football team. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. I really, really appreciate it. I'm actually getting ready to record an episode, crossover episode with the Locked On Longhorns guys doing that, or Locked On. I don't know if they're Locked On Texas or Locked On Longhorns. I don't know, but whichever it is, getting ready to record a crossover episode with them here in a little bit. That will come out on Thanksgiving. So you'll have a little bit of, if you got a little Texas A&M rivalry at the dinner table on Thanksgiving, you got something to put on the TV and yell at each other about. Better than anything else, right? That you could yell about at a dinner table for Thanksgiving. So that'll be the plan for Thursday. We'll talk about position battles on tomorrow's show. And then Friday, we'll talk about keys to a victory for the Aggies. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day today. And we will see y'all tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.